And today's event, as you can see on the screen, is the future of Solihull Town Centre. Our sponsors for the event, Solihull Festival of Business, our sponsors are Aston University and Lead Piety, and just want to say a thank you to those for sponsoring as headline sponsors throughout the whole of the week for us. Slide 2, Grace. So joining us today, we have Nick Page, Chief Executive of Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council. We have Tony Alvin, who's the General Manager of Touchwood and President of Solihull Chamber. Nicola Caulfield, who is the Sales Manager for Crown Plaza Solihull and Chair of the Tourism Forum, and Helen Morrissey, who's Employment Director for the local business Thursville Solicitors in the Town Centre. If you've got any questions for our speakers this afternoon, please, if you can use the Q&A box that you can see on your screens, that would be great, and then they'll be answered and posed to the speakers following at the end of the session. So before I hand over to Nicola, who's going to be posting the rest of the session today for us, I'd just like to share with you what else is taking place this week. Thanks, Grace. So we've just got the last few on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, some more webinars that are coming up, along with some networking and some workshops, which are covering sales and social media masterclasses. For all of these, and to find out more, all you need to do is visit our website, where you can register and book onto one of the events. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. Sam Frampton from Head of Solihull Chamber, and now over to Nicola.
He was frantically trying to unmute herself then. Hello everybody and welcome to the event. Please excuse the headset. You've not come through to the Crown Plaza call centre help desk. It just helps with the sound from my side. It's either that or I use my son's gaming headphones, and since Fortnite updates come out today, there was no chance of getting those off him. I can't see any of you, so if you've got any questions or you need to chat, please put it in the box. I won't know if you've gone off to make a cuppa, and I'm used to talking to myself because I've got 2 kids, but hopefully you'll stay tuned for all of the updates that we've got. So first up, we're going to have Nick Page, Chief Exec of Solihull Metropolitan, easy to say, Borough Council, who will be telling us about the plans for the town centre, and I'm really excited to hear all about that. Next up, we've got Tony Elvin, General Manager of Touchwood and our President of Solihull Chamber, who's going to tell us some exciting news about what's going on within Touchwood and also Solihull itself. I'll be giving a short update as Chair of the Solihull Tourism Forum on some of the focuses that we've been doing, just to add a little bit to Tony's presentation. And then we've got Helen Morrissey talking from the point of view of a business in Solihull Borough. So really quite a packed lineup. So I'm going to hand over to Nick Page, please, first for your presentation.
Thanks, Nicola. And I've got some slides just to basically just orientate through a short presentation just about where we see as a council the future of the town centre. So just go on to the first next slide, please. That'd be really helpful. So what I want to just cover is what we're seeing in terms of what you can see on the slide, but really why Solihull, why is it a place of destination in terms of retail, of business and growth, and even in these times during COVID, and seeing the work that Tony and the bid are doing and other partners in the place, I think there's a real strength about the offer in Solihull. And what we're seeing from a council perspective is a slow but nevertheless marked opening up. We're seeing more footfall, we're seeing the car parks busier. Clearly what we want to do is make sure that people spend more pounds in Solihull, and for you, Nicola, and the hotel industry, people actually stay in the town. But we're confident that we'll get there, even if we may see a slight delay in the opening up in and around the 21st, just commenting on what we're reading nationally on that. But certainly what we're seeing is quality of retail and business offer, and that continues to grow. We're seeing, the heritage, high street, conservation area. Not saying all of this is in play or as perfect as it needs to be, but certainly those are some of the pieces that we're trying to scaffold together with our partners. Very clearly how we bring in the green space into the town centre, some of that through the wildlife ways, but I would suggest we're quite unusual in terms of the actual conurbation and having so much green space linked to the town centre. You know, probably you're talking about Leamington Spa. It's probably the nearest other area where you've got parks abutting where people shop and actually work. Reputation of Solihull Town Centre, it's safe. We have a really good set of processes with police and other agencies, just making sure it's a good place to come. And I know, talking to people, both residents in the borough, but people who live in the West Midlands, that it's still a destination place to come and shop. And that's really, really important. We need to do more, and I'll come on to some of that in a moment, but certainly that reputation remains. And I've touched upon it in my opening remark, is that the partnership working with our businesses, with Tony, the bid, and also just generally in terms of how we operate with other agencies, is a strong piece for the borough. But again, you know, we're not resting on our laurels, and we've got a lot more to do on that. And I'm sure people listening into that will also have views of that as well. So next slide, please. So I'm not an expert in town centres, but we have experts working with us. But also what we have is, through government policy, quite a lot of focus on how we maintain town centres. My challenge back to government on this will be how we grow town centres, because they are changing. And what we're seeing is, in our master plan for the town centre, we're proposing over 1,000 new residential units, which will cater in the main for young professionals, people downscaling, people who are moving into a much more of that urbanised environment. And there's definite market for that. All of our analysis, all of our trend data, and we see that as being really important, particularly for evening to nighttime economies, particularly. And we see that as a real opportunity in there. Obviously, workspace, you know, so my main head office is in the town centre, literally opposite Tony's Touchwood. So what do we see here? We see hybrid working, but we still see a demand for high quality workspaces, just different. I was looking at a report on one of our other office areas that we rent out to small businesses. We've got a waiting list in that area, really surprising, but you know, maybe not, of over 6 months now for that small set of units. So there is a market for high quality workspaces. It's high quality, and it's how it fits in with the environment. Obviously, everything that we're doing is linked to our net zero, our carbon agenda, our environmental agenda, but also long-term sustainability. What we've seen over the last 30, 40 years potentially is cyclical demand and supply. What we're trying to do is really, through our master plan, be clear on how we protect to a degree going forward. And I think certainly the COVID pandemic has demonstrated how that is really important. But underpinning this is an environmentally sound, environmentally good place to come in to visit, to shop, to use the facilities here, but also to work, and increasingly, as I've said, to live. So just on to the next one, if I may, and our vision. So the master plan sets out an overall vision and identifies 3 key concepts. And those 3 concepts are on the screen for you. So we're bringing forward investment into, obviously, through Transport for West Midlands, the bus network, our connectivity to other parts of the borough and into the conurbation. So connectivity to Shirley, connectivity to Chelmsley Wood, and then out into our rural areas in Dorridge and Balsall Common and areas such as that. But also what we're looking at is really sustainable travel through the regeneration of the train station in Solihull. And our ambition, and working with lots of different agencies nationally and regionally, is how we connect our side of the borough where we are now to other parts. And I'm going to say HS2 as well, because that's going to be a game changer. And there will be absolutely, first of all, a trickle down, and potentially, if we get it right, a flow through to the next decade. First station outside of London, and that is a significant and really important part for us. But how we create those permeable, sustainable travel options linked then to really good experiences. So what does that look like, and how do we as the council work with our partners to strengthen, as you can see there, that evening offer? Okay, and you know, that is going to be a challenge. We recognize that, and particularly with, you know, the hospitality sector just beginning now to take some very small steps forward, and then, you know, we've got to really nurture that. We understand that. But also, what does leisure look like for, you know, moving now into potentially the third decade of the 21st century? How do we define what leisure is? And that is changing. How do we get people to dwell in the town centre? So to come for not just a few hours, but actually to dwell for 4 or 5 hours is really important. And that leads then into that arts and culture, really, really important for us. And I'm the first to say that, you know, despite lots of investment in our culture and arts in the town centre and lots of events, the jazz festival and things like that, and, you know, the park and things like that, we've still got a long way to go. That tends to be more localised experiences for people. And what we need to do is think about how we reach out further in the region. So with the City of Culture down the road in Coventry, with the Commonwealth Games next year, we've got a number of potential catalysts, junction points, which we need to work to understand how we can get maximum benefit from that. And I've mentioned about living and working, but investment in arts and culture is a real focus point for the council. And we put some dedicated work into that. And hopefully we'll be bringing forward some really exciting plans over the next 12, 18 months into that space. Thank you. Let's go on to the master plan. So the master plan identifies, as it says there, 6 key areas of change and 9 development sites. We've divided it up into a western gateway, which is where my offices, the council offices are, the northern gateway, which is up towards Solihull School and that end of the borough, the heart of Solihull, and then obviously the St Alfred's Quarter in there as well. And these are really, really important geographical locations. They help us understand and plan future housing, future options. I think it's fair to say what we'll be doing and working with partners is how we actually distinguish those areas. And one of the key bits for us is not just to look at them in isolation. You know, we recognise there's a wider rail and road network to get into the town centre, the whole agenda around, as I said earlier, net zero, how we facilitate different form of transport usage into the town. You know, by 2030, how many of us will be driving cars as we currently do? What do we need to bring into that space? And I think this is where the master plan gives us some enablers, some signals, and I'd encourage everyone to get involved in that master plan and get your oar into it really strongly, because, you know, it's got to be a collective vision, and it will only work if we do it collectively. Okay, the next one, please. Okay, so the Western Gateway, I just want to pick up on this, and the planning's in. If you walk up from the station, you will see the boards there. We're ready to go. Obviously, what we're doing is we're just making sure that we get the right sort of level of investment. I've got to be honest, it's a challenge at the moment with that investment. But what we're doing is working with the market to understand what does grade A office development look like today. It looked very different 12 months ago, I would suggest. But how we create that public and private workspace is really, really important. And the gateway element of that is also really important. We need to be, as soon as people come off public transport, as soon as they park their car, then they need to be recognising they're entering a destination of purpose, a destination that's attractive. Nothing that will surprise people listening into this, but what we're really clear about as the council is how we facilitate and enable that. And one thing that's really strikes me about Solihull, and it's something that hopefully we continue to do, is the attention to detail. Okay, and what I mean by that is everything from the type of paving we put in to picking up the litter, making sure the bins are emptied. It's the attention to detail that makes a difference. And it was drilled into me when I first came to Solihull 8 years ago that people make investment decisions into the borough because of the attention to detail. And that's really true. You know, we speak to investors globally. I was speaking to a Canadian investor yesterday, you know, and their investment portfolio is worth several £billion. And they are really, really clear about investments in the UK. Part of that is to do with Brexit and the deregulation of investment linked to the EU. But also what it's about is the enablement to invest in places where they would want to live. And that's that pattern of good transport links, really good offer in the town centre, really good education links, etc., etc., etc. And that's where the council, working with the combined authority and the local enterprise partnership and with central government, is key and enabling us to go forward, we would hope. Okay, next one. So what we're doing in the heart of Solihull, and you can see that. So currently at the Eastgate is where I'm based, in the civic office and the hub. And you can see there in that slide that we're bringing forward ideas about how we might change the usage of this building, the council building, to a much more mixed use of residential, potentially some retail offer here, but mainly it will be residential and offices, and how we create high quality public spaces and link in. And some really big opportunities, we think, in that space, but also how we build out from St Alfred and the top of the hill there and across into Touchwood and Mel Square. But Mel Square is that retail loop linking Touchwood High Street and the Eastgate site, how we open up to Solihull School, and how we just try and, as both owners and potentially bringing in developers, increase that residential offer. And that improved public realm. And as I said earlier about dwell time, that's the key bit for us that we're trying to work with partners. Okay, next one. And as you can see, underpinned by sustainability. So one of the key things that we've been doing, and we've been working on this for a couple of years now. If you know Solihull, you'll probably remember from about 2 years ago, we had a large drilling rig next door to Tudor Grange Sports Centre over in the park there. I was hoping that we would find oil or gold. We didn't. But nevertheless, what we did find was a heat source, an environmental heat source. So this picture, this graphic here, gives you what that would look like. And what we're already doing is we're working on a low carbon energy centre, which is what this is, to support a town centre energy network where people working, living, having their businesses in the town centre can access cheap, renewable, net zero fuel. And all of that's now ready to go. And that fits in within our climate change prospectus and our net zero options. And I understand that our first customers could be hooked up and start benefiting from the network in spring 2033. So cheap, much cheaper than the main grid suppliers, but also really environmentally sound and helping us to really make some step forwards in that. So that's my short piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Nick. Lots on there, very forward thinking, and I think that's the great thing about Solihull Council, a very forward thinking council, but always with actions as well to back it up. It's not just all words, and like you say, when you do it, you do it thoroughly, do it well, and I think also in collaboration as well, you know, grabbing everyone together and making sure that it's you know, works for everybody, which is great. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tony to give us an update.
Thanks very much. We're certainly looking forward to buying some of that cheap energy from up the road as well, Nick. I know we'll support and engaging with our various retailers, occupiers to get as much sign up as that as possible. So I've got a whistle stop presentation for you. Have I shared the right screen? Have I even? Can you see it on the screen?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. So just a whistle stop, a few slides talking about the challenges faced by hospitality and retail sector, our plan to combat those challenges, and actually what impact COVID has had and will have on that plan. So listen, the demise of the shopping centre and the high street has been, well discussed for some time now. And, if we go back to even 2019 or last year, as we keep calling it, forgetting about the pandemic year, footfall's a challenge everywhere. Big chains are nervous. The towns are oversaturated with retail. Numbers are failing to stack up, rents, rates, service charge and all the rest of it. And I think that the whole industry is kind of faced with that, with disruption everywhere from, all these disruptive companies coming into the marketplace, whether it's Uber, Bookings.com, Airbnb, everybody has got that digital disruption happening. And, retail certainly, big impact on them as well. So you're faced with a choice, you either, like the dinosaurs, you evolve or die. And, if we look at the state of the industry, these statistics on here, I won't read them all out, but they tell you that it's less important about what you do whilst you're here. It's more important, it's getting people to the centre. We know that food and beverage is such an important positioning for a shopping centre. So back in the day, you'd have lots of convenient restaurants that would be there to service a crowd that would come in, week out to shop. Things are really turning on their head now, where actually your dining, your leisure can bring people to shop. Because if you're sitting on the sofa, it's easier to order online. But if you're already here, it's easier to shop physically than it would be to faff around on your phone. So shopping centres can't beat online transactions for price or convenience, but what they can do is deliver a great experience. And the internet cannot challenge somewhere like a shopping centre for going for coffee with your mum, watching the latest movie, grabbing a bite to eat. And shopping has almost become a byproduct of a visit to a shopping centre. So it's the experience in itself that becomes the USP. As such, our strategy has been to give people more reasons to come to Solihull. And I say Solihull, not just Touchwood, because we know if someone's going to go to, Mel Square, they're definitely going to come to Touchwood as well. So we just want that visit to Solihull, and we know we'll get that footfall. We want to make everybody feel welcome. So, are the people in your street represented when you go shopping at Touchwood? I think more and more that is the case, that they are. Focus on community and collaboration, creating special experiences and memorable moments so that, people associate a visit to Touchwood or to Solihull with having a great time, not just a transactional experience, because as we know, the transaction is what you get quick and easy on the internet. So we want to create more reasons for people to come to Solihull. These are some recent openings or a couple that are on the way. So my regular lunch haunts of Jamaica and Yakanori, 2 independents there. We've got Nines, the 4-lane bowling centre with cocktail bar on the way. Dirty Wild Wings on the way as well, and Asher's winners of Best Newcomer at the National Curry Awards recently. So we're trying to give people more reasons to come to Solihull. And one of the key reasons for that is 56% of people that came into Touchwood shopping in 2019 spent an additional £71 in the centre. So they came to pick something up from Next or John Lewis, and while they were here, on average, 56% of those people spent an extra £71. So we just want to get them here, and we know that they'll spend money. So improve the leisure offer, which ties in exactly with what Nick was saying, improving that nighttime economy piece, broadening the dining choice, trimming down vacancies. We've been very lucky here. Our vacancy rate has been under 5% for most of the time that I've been here. It's changed a little bit just now. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then more events and activities. So it always feels like there's something going on. But are we forgetting something here? The world changed quite a bit last year, didn't it? So things have changed for now, of course, and the tax changed quite significantly. Really had to be safety first. We wanted people to know that if they came to Touchwood, that they felt safe to come back. We were familiar with supermarkets. It's quite a scary time last year. And lots of people, believe it or not, have still not been out to shopping centres. So we looked at data coming from around the world. Asia was a great kind of canary in the mine for what was to come. And coming out of lockdown last summer, interestingly, supermarkets ranked as the safest you've got to query whether that's actually true, but it's probably more born out of familiarity. And equally, gyms deemed the least safe, which is probably a little bit unfair on gyms, but people hadn't been into gyms, so it was more fear of the unknown. Shopping centres, a controlled environment, ranked at 4th place. We knew from this research that safety is the #1 priority, replacing value for money or cheap price, which had dropped down to 8th. Convenience was really important. Ethics, loyalty schemes, ethically sourcing products, sustainability, all far more important than cheapest price. So we set out to create a really safe, controlled environment, limited capacity. We've got a live capacity counter in Touchwood, clear signage, social distancing, mask compliance, where many places don't challenge people on whether you're wearing a mask or not. Really going hell for leather to create the safest possible environment. Nick touched on this earlier, working collaboratively is absolutely key. And I think we're working closer now than ever before. You know, we have weekly meetings with the council team, the police, working with those guys, with the bid, the chamber. It's really been outstanding. I've even had phone calls from Councillor Courts just checking in how we are, from Julian Knight, our local MP, and there's been a real great collaborative mood in the air. Now, obviously it won't always be like this, but this was our pandemic strategy. Those events and activities are out the window, focusing heavily on community matters, local causes instead of events, the safety measures that I mentioned. But does the pandemic mean the end of the high street as we know it? Well, certainly Touchwood's not coming out of this unscathed. We already had a 5% vacancy rate just below. We lost another 10% of our stores. We've got approximately 100 stores, restaurants, coffee shops here. But we were the lucky ones as well. Now we lost Tesla, we lost Topshop, Firejack's, Bella Italia, Ask. You could query those last 3 restaurants, maybe a little bit past their sell-by date. And it was always Touchwood's plan to bring in more exciting independents, but obviously never great that you lose 3 restaurants all in one time. But if anything, it will help us speed up the evolution of the centre. Now, the halo effect, I don't know if you've heard of this, but brands will always need physical stores. You are not going to lose the high street or your local shopping centre. And here's the key strategy, or key part of that strategy. Online sales more than double within a store's catchment, which is incredible. So no surprise that likes of Boohoo looking at physical presence, and even Amazon looking at physical stores. Now, not only we already know that if you could get people down, that they will spend more. But let's look at some of these other stats as well. So the online spend even increases by 5% where you've got one of those stores in the vicinity. So it's really important for an online retailer to have a physical presence, and 85% of returns still go back to a physical store, irrespective of where they're purchased. Now, so this goes back to our original strategy, creating more reasons for people to come to Solihull, making everybody feel welcome and safe, focus on community and collaboration, create special experiences and memorable moments. Now, we've got some great reasons to be optimistic in Touchwood, in Solihull. We might have lost 11 tenants in the last 12 months, but we've gained 5 back already. We've signed deals for 6 more. And in the past month, we've signed 4 lease renewals, likes of Apple, Claire's, for example, amongst those that have signed new leases with us. Of these new stores and restaurants coming into Touchwood, 70% of these are independent. And we know from our customers that's exactly what they're looking for. John Lewis are staying. They didn't stay in Birmingham, they're staying here. They realise the value of being in the 5th most affluent borough in the UK. An unprecedented level of demand from new retailers and restaurants coming into Solihull. And we're on target for a lower vacancy rate by the end of this year than pre-pandemic, which is incredible. The public are craving that normality. We've seen that. It's a completely different feel around the centre now than there was in between the previous lockdowns. The vaccination program's working. There's optimism in the air. We can't throw caution to the window. We need to keep doing the right things, social distancing, keeping a safe environment, wearing our masks, doing our bit for everybody else. And we will get back to putting those events on, those experiences that people want to see. There's new investment coming into Touchwood. Touchwood is in the process of being sold. That should complete next week. American investment coming into Solihull, again showing you why Solihull is a great destination to invest in. It's a great town, and we are bucking the trend on the UK retail and hospitality market. External factors, HS2, Town Centre redevelopment that Nick talked about, Commonwealth Games, they're all going to have a big impact, and those additional chimney pots in the town centre will give funds to those trading within the town centre. Now, the French said it best, Viva Revolution. We live in exponential times, change is coming, but it's up to us to harness that demand, lead from the front, and deliver a really, what we call an omni-channel retail experience, where you can buy online, return in a physical store, driving footfall through leisure, and helping people to buy local and independent. And that's my little bit.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Tony. I think there's loads of positives there. I know from my perspective, the first shopping trip I took, I actually lived near the Fort Shopping Centre, but I came into Solihull. It was my first trip, took the kids with me, because I knew that I'd get, you know, an experience to ease me in, a little bit nervous. And even, I think the first time we dined out was Taste Collective. So every time my default is to come to Solihull, because I know that, you know, we do it well and things are going to be looked after. Interestingly, I think I do sit in that stats of 56% of people spend £71 plus when they go out. I only nipped out to get a sandwich, but never mind. So just going to share with you the Tourism Forum updates, because it does really fit in with what Nick talked about, and also some of what Tony's talked about. So Grace, if you could share my slides, that would be great, and go on to the second one. It's gone again. Yeah, if you can move on to the next one, please. So one of the things that we've been working on, or by we, I should say, Verity, over at the Business Investment Assistant over at the council, and some of the team there headed up by Claire Rudge, we've been working on the Visit Solihull website. It did actually get updated previously, but we've sort of relaunched it. Part of what we're doing as well is giving us a social media presence as well, and very much a digital presence. So Verity doing some great work on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and LinkedIn. The idea behind it is that we're very much putting Solihull as a destination on the map in terms of digital, but also it's an opportunity for everybody to showcase what they're doing, their businesses as well. So I do urge you to follow, share, and if you've got any content, then please do share it with Verity and the team, because it's your opportunities to really, for us to shout about it. Next slide, please, Grace. The Visit Solihull website, if it's relevant to you, please make sure that your details are on there. So if it's somewhere to stay, places to eat, make sure that you've got visibility on there as well. And again, that's a site where we're putting everything together so that when people are researching the area, or they're thinking about their plans for the Commonwealth Games, that far forward, they can just find all that information there and see what the borough has to offer. On to the next one, please. So we've talked about collaboration and sort of innovation and moving forward. And I think if you're going to be in a borough, in a hotel in a pandemic, I think Solihull's the borough to be in, because I think there's been some absolutely brilliant working together, people all championing each other and just celebrating each other's successes. And some of the great things that have come out of it is the Taste Collective, and also sort of Home Dine, some great success stories there. So what we want to do is really capitalise on that. So the vision for Visit Solihull and the sort of content that's going to come out is about creating sort of experiences. So almost like, if you were coming to Solihull for the day, what would you do? If you were coming for a 2-night stay, what would you do? And focusing that at sort of something for couples, something for families, and really letting them know the experience that you can have in the borough, and really just capitalising on the legacies that Coventry City of Culture and the Commonwealth Games will bring. Let's let people know what we've got to offer, so that they'll come back and just really put Solihull on the map. So watch out for some more actions coming through from that. And on the next slide is my contact details. If anybody isn't part of the Tourism Forum and then would like to be part of it, or would like to know more, then do let me know, because I think it's a great time to sort of join with all the activities that we've got going on and all the exciting things that are coming up. We'd love to get everybody on board and just supporting really to push tourism in Solihull for the greater good of the borough. So next we have Helen Morrissey from Burstfield.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I'm sorry I don't have any slides, so you're just going to have to look at me instead. For that, I apologise. But yeah, as Nicola said, I'm Helen Morrissey. I'm a Director and Head of Employment at Thursfield Solicitors. Just so that to give you a bit of context, if you don't know Thursfields, we're a regional law firm. We have 5 offices. We have offices in Worcester, Kidderminster, Halesowen, Birmingham, and here in Solihull, which is where I'm based. And I'm here just to sort of talk for a few minutes about our experience as a business in Solihull through the pandemic and coming out of it, and indeed my own personal experience as someone who works in Solihull. I actually moved to Thursfields last year, having spent 14 years at an international law firm in Birmingham city centre. So I think I did my time there, but I wanted to move to Solihull, A, because I live here, but B, because I love Solihull Town Centre. It's a great place for business, and our offices, we're on the Warwick Road, we're in the courtyard, which is a lovely development, and you know, it's a great place to be in your work environment. Although I did actually start in the middle of lockdown, having given my notice in about 2 weeks before the lockdown started. Who knew that was going to happen? So my start in Thursfields wasn't quite as I imagined, but you know, I can see that things are sort of changing and opening up again. I think in common with other professional services in Solihull, and there are a lot, which is a testament to Solihull. There are a lot of professional service firms around here. We've kept the office open for those jobs that absolutely can't be done from home. And it's been a bit like a ghost ship some days, but we are gradually opening up as a business. All of our support staff are back because their jobs are, to be fair, harder to do from home. The lawyers, we're coming in from time to time. We're staying at home predominantly until, well, I say June the 21st, as Nick mentioned, that might change. But as soon as the working from home, if you can, rule changes, then you know the lawyers will be back. But I mean, again, as I think Nick mentioned, hybrid working, I think that is going to be a real feature of working in a business going forward. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's good for work-life balance. And I'd hate to see a return of this sort of presenteeism that was so rife pre-pandemic. I do wonder what the impact of hybrid working will have on Solihull Town Centre, with people perhaps only here 3 days a week rather than 5. I did actually see a thing on the BBC website this morning at the Centre for Cities think tank, who knew, said that they anticipate that we'll be returning to a 5-day office-based system within 2 years. I'm more sceptical, but equally, I don't think hybrid working will necessarily have an adverse impact on Solihull, because I'm not sure that even if we're here 5 days a week, we necessarily go into Solihull 5 days a week. But if we are here 3 days a week, we will use that time here as business people, and do our networking, do our socializing, do our shopping, do our returning our goods to John Lewis and that sort of thing. And you know, actually, you can't work properly at home forever. You know, we do need to get back. It's difficult to manage a team remotely. If I have to do another team meeting on Zoom, I might have to scream. You know, it's hard to supervise juniors and trainees. And actually, this Centre for Cities think tank did actually come up with a good point, that actually some of the best ideas that colleagues share, they don't happen in the 3 p.m. Tuesday meeting that's been scheduled. They happen in the kitchen, in the office. They happen spontaneously. You know, these ideas, the creativity that business needs to thrive, it happens at random, and you need people in the office just randomly meeting by the water cooler, although it's a bit of a cliche, for that to happen. And it's not just seeing colleagues that I think will bring people back, certainly people in business back. You know, there is a real buzz in Solihull, which I've certainly missed. As I say, you can pop to the shops at lunchtime. It's meeting business colleagues face to face, and at the face to face networking that the chamber organises. You know, I've really missed the face to face networking in Solihull, and thanks to the Solihull Chamber for keeping us going on Zoom in the meantime. Great when it works, not so great when it doesn't. you know, but I really think that the buzz is returning. You know, as somebody that's coming into town now more and more and more, I do feel that it's returning. You know, we have clients all over the Midlands, but obviously I'm based in Solihull. I'm trying to build up a network of clients and contacts in Solihull, and it's really good to see how well many businesses in Solihull have thrived. You know, well, they've weathered the storm, and as I say, some have even thrived, and that it shows what a resilient, adaptable business community we have here, you know, across a whole range of sectors. And I'm very proud to be part of that business community, if I'm honest, personally and professionally. And businesses, yes, they've had a lot to contend with. And I mean, I'm a lawyer, I'm bound to talk a bit of law here, but you know, there's been many difficulties that our clients in Solihull and further afield have faced with the inevitable restructures and redundancies that have had to take place. And Thurstfields has by no means been immune to that. We've had to do the same. And you know, we've spent a lot of time actually looking at ways to help businesses avoid redundancies if it can be done. But actually, as we're opening up, there's a whole range of new and frankly unprecedented legal issues that business is facing, all businesses are facing, which, you know, I actually did a webinar last week that I called Back to the Future, bit of a cliche, but it was looking at how do we get, you know, what are the legal issues arising from going back to a post-pandemic normality, if there is such a thing. And there are all sorts of issues, such as, you know, that are facing businesses. Can you insist on your employees being vaccinated? I mean, I think the short answer to that is probably not. But what about, you know, can you insist on them being tested regularly? Can you insist on that? Can you ask your employees to reveal if they've been tested or not? And if you do, what are you going to do with that data? How are you going to use it? What are you going to use it for? In fact, at the webinar I did last week, somebody said that they worked for an American firm who are not only asking people to disclose whether they've been vaccinated, but asking them to wear a sticker to show that they have, which I was, as an employment lawyer, I was a little bit uncomfortable about, to be fair, insisting on your employees wearing a sticker. You know, what about employees that refuse to wear a mask? And actually, what about people that are still so nervous about COVID that they don't want to come back to work, or they don't want that commute into Solihull or wherever it is they're going? How do you deal with that? And I won't go into it here, but, you know, these are big issues for business. And another really interesting one, how do you say no to a flexible working request to work at home some or all of the week, when it's been working quite successfully for the last 15 months? That's another knotty one that businesses are really having to sort of chew over at the moment. So there are lots and lots of legal issues arising out of this gradual opening up. And, you know, businesses will continue to face these new challenges going forward into the future. What I would say, for what it's worth, is that, you know, as a business, to avoid becoming a legal cropper, I mean, obviously abide by the law, but, you know, if you act in a reasonable and proportionate way, if you consider all options and you keep a note of the business rationale behind any business decisions that are made, then you shouldn't go far wrong. So I'm sorry, that's just the employment solicitor coming out in me. But just to finish, you know, it's been a very, very strange time, but I was so heartened last week when I wandered out in my lunch hour around Solihull. The sun was out, the town was looking absolutely splendid with all the new seating. The coffee shops and the restaurants did seem to be busy and thriving, and the shops were busy, but not overcrowded, which is key. And, you know, I think for the first time in a long time, things really started to feel normal for me. And I mean, long may it continue. And I'm personally someone that both lives and works in Solihull, very excited about the plans that Nick outlined. I think Solihull Bid is doing a fantastic job in town as well. And I think all the resources being invested in this wonderful town will stand it in really good stead for the future. So that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Helena. One thing you didn't mention was the news came out today on the Chamber that you had your busiest 12 months of corporate activity. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, the corporate team has been absolutely flying high, which I think is testament, I think, to the resilience of business, just sort of trying to get on with it, really. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, I think as much as people are having meetings on Teams and that's working to a degree, we're certainly from a hotel finding that some of our demand is social events, people just wanting to have a team meeting. And now it's less about the content of the meeting, just we want to get together and have that feeling that we're all part of a team rather than, you know, it being anything more than that. So I think there's been people's time's been used better sometimes through not having to travel, but I think there is still that need for people to come together and want to be, you know, in an office together working collaboratively. So before I go on to the questions and answers, just to say if anybody has any questions, do pop them in the chat. We've got a few in there already, so let me just open it up. Got a few questions, they're quite wordy, so bear with me. So one from Brad Parks. So Nick, great presentation, exciting and forward thinking. Are there plans in tandem with all you presented to, one, improve cycle paths and lighting, namely Bruton and Malvern Parks, two, more of the parklet style seating areas like in the town centre, and improve infrastructure such as Mr. and Mrs. Doctors and schools, sorry, I don't know where I got that from, to be developed to increase facilities for the extra residential units being created?
I'll try and answer. I've got some of those questions there, Nicola. So if I don't answer them, as a former teacher, I'll get my mum to send them in to you later. So yeah, look, cycle paths and lighting. So I'm a cyclist, and I sometimes cycle to work, but I also do leisure cycling. We've got a big infrastructure programme through the Combined Authority for cycle paths, and certainly the challenge we've got is I certainly, when commuting in the winter and cycling through Bruton Park, I'd love to have lighting through the park, and not least when I come up behind dog walkers and stuff like that. The challenge we've got is maintenance. Let's be honest, it's going to cost us a fortune, not just the application of that, but also it's going through a largely residential area, so we get real planning restrictions in terms of adding more lighting. We are looking at it though, and I'll let you into a little secret. We've been looking at some of the models that they use in Europe, where you have lighting that actually is automated and it comes on as you cycle, so it's like 3 lights in front. Really interesting stuff. At the moment it costs a fortune, but it's something that we are looking at. Infrastructure has to come with any development. So with the community infrastructure levy, with more homes being built, there'll be more school places, there'll be more doctors' access. Talking with our health partners, where we're going in that space is really interesting, very exciting, is that digital connection. So we're working through University Hospital Birmingham, with BT Global, with Amazon, with Google, because they're all interested in this healthcare space. It's really interesting for our borough, really interesting. And it isn't just a few quid in this. This is a fundamental shift pattern. And you saw, you know, the potential for us to build a health innovation campus up at Arden Cross, next door to where HS2 is going to have its first station, by Paul Tandy at the NEC, Nick Barton at the airport. What does that mean for our town centre and that connectivity? So absolutely right to ask about the infrastructure. A lot more work to be done on that. The leader of the council, Ian Courts, is really clear and consistent with me and the officer team. They're really building up the infrastructure and the revenue in that space. Where I see it in local government, I see probably much more now of a mixture of public and private investment. Gone are the days, certainly in this current framework, you know, that we need to be really clear that we're going to need a lot of private investment. Government investment is not going to be at quantum, you know, and that's the political side of it. That's beyond my pay grade. So we need to be in that space. And then the other thing I think is really important on this, and particularly when we talk about education and leisure, let's not forget that we've got, and I'm not just saying this, a world-class FE college and university centre in Solihull, both here in the town centre and at Woodlands, and it is world-class. It is world-class. And so I would encourage you as employers to link in with John and his college and making sure that you have that pattern of training, because apprenticeships and skills, and we've seen this, and Tony's much more of an expert, and Nicola, you will be in hospitality. with furlough and the demand now for people in that hospitality, and it's a short-term demand maybe, or maybe it isn't. Maybe you need to set that. And Helena, in terms of your employment expertise and the law side of it, there are elements there that we can build out with our college. We've got that, and we now need to utilise that, and I think in a far more sharper way. So I'd encourage us to get into that space as well.
Thank you for that, Nick. And yeah, to touch on the point about skills, it did come up this morning. Sam, myself, we're on Jazz's radio show with Nick from Digital Innovators, and it came up about we've got a real responsibility to be sort of championing our individual sectors and just helping the young people, especially because they've really, been through the mill, and there's a lot of, concerns from their side, and almost that sort of feeling that they may not have careers to go into. So I think we absolutely need to inspire and support the next generation. So definitely on that front. So these questions are for Tony, please. I'm going to try and combine a couple of them. So there's been some huge amount of excitement and positivity around the growth of the town centre. It's really great news. What can we do to support you in terms of shouting about that? And a slight separate question is, what other businesses would you like to see in the town centre? We're on mute.
Right, yeah.
That's my trick.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see, the old butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I think we need some traditional, there isn't a butcher in Solihull. I have to go to a supermarket, which is bonkers to me. And we're actively trying to, we've done some of it on Solihull Hour on a Tuesday night to reach out to some butchers. Eric Lyons came and had a look around. They'd be really keen to come into the town centre if the right unit was available. I think there's loads of opportunity for something like that. The rest is going to be more leisure, giving people more reasons to come as well. So I think, even speaking to my opposite number over at Mel Square, Paul Round, we've got lots of interest at the moment. Be great to see what happens, to that Marks and Spencer's site. I think we'd all love to see, we want lots of independents, but wouldn't a Primark really help all those independents as well by bringing some additional footfall in? So yeah, I think you will see some of those gaps being filled, and you can bet that Solihull is on a better footing than most places. But just a couple of brands, there's plenty that we're negotiating with at the moment that not really in a position to talk to you about, but Tag Heuer are coming into Touchwood, big premium watch brand. Dykeman opened yesterday, which is really good. I think Europe's biggest shoe retailer. So people are still interested in coming in for sure. And on Thursday this week, I'm showing around 4 different potential retailers, and funny enough, they're all looking at the same stores. But hopefully we'll be able to announce a few more soon, and they're taking up some of the big units as well.
Brilliant, that's great. And as a shopper myself, I think there's a real mix of different offerings as well, so it's brilliant. One for Helena, if I may, which is as somebody that works in the town centre, how can we retain the working clientele into the town centre? If we work on a 3-day working from the office week, will it end up being a 4-day weekend? Is there any sort of thoughts from your side on how we might be able to, I suppose, also from a legal point of view, how we can kind of get people to almost spread their days out a little bit?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, I'm not quite sure whether the person is angling for a 4-day weekend. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I work 3 days. It's great. I can highly recommend it.
Oh, golly. No, I mean, I think, I mean, certainly, I mean, if you don't want your employees taking their working at home as a weekend, you need to sort of have your parameters very clearly set out in writing when you agree the new arrangement, because actually, just a quick legal aside, if somebody does apply to work at home and their contract probably says your place of work is the office, so actually as a matter of law you do need to be updating your contracts, but that's boring law. In terms of attracting people, working clientele, I think the town does really well already because of the offering that it's got, particularly now the hospitality is opening up again. That really has brought a buzz to the place. And I think, business events, I mentioned the chamber events previously, they're really good, and getting them back to face to face, I think really will bring working people want to come back into town and attend these these business events and the social business events as well, if you know what I mean. It's not just networking, but just an opportunity to get out there and meet other business people. And the town's very good at that, but I think that needs to be a focus going forward.
Brilliant, thank you. And looping back round to Nick, one last question from Vikesh from Visual 8, if I've read that right. What is the best way to get involved in the development of Solihull and the regeneration projects? Who should we contact or connect with?
Okay, so there's our Director of Economy Infrastructure, Mary Morrissey. She's on our website, or contact me and I can put Vikesh through to her. And we're looking for really some inspirational people to work with. You know, yeah, we'll do the heavy lifting if you like, but the only way we're going to pull this off is working with people like Tony and Helena and you, Nicola, and Sam, to really pull this through. And just to give you one example, so I'm going to pitch this to you as my colleagues, just as maybe as a thought. We're looking in other town centres around the country. And before the pandemic, Ian Courts, the leader of the council, and I, we went up to Chester. I used to live in Chester, and we looked at their Playhouse development there, which is a former Art Deco cinema, which was laying dormant. It's now got a world-class theatre in it, a theatre company. It's got the library, which is like a library I've never been in. It's like a set of living rooms where you can get books. It's got a cafe, bar. It's an amazing design space. And you look at that quarter in Chester now, and it's full of independents, post eateries, bars linked to the theatre, etc., etc. It's completely regenerated that part of the town. You got your Debenhams shut down in Browns now in the in the town centre. You can just see the nucleus moving, and that's the type of thing that we want to bring into Solihull. So why wouldn't Solihull be a venue for the Tate Midlands? You've got your Tate St Ives, you've got the Tate Liverpool. Why not in Solihull? Yeah, where do we put that stake in the ground to say you can come and look at Van Goghs and Rubens or whatever you need, or an unmade bed, no matter what gets you going, but you come into Solihull, you use Touchwood, you use Mill Square, and it's that type of thing that we're beginning to start working on. Now, we have no experience or expertise as a council now, but you guys do. So go back to the question, that's where we need you coming in and working with us.
Brilliant, that's great. I can't help you with an unmade bed because I wouldn't dream of letting you in one of our bedrooms unless it was ready for you. But as an art installation, who knows, we could give it a go.
I saw your face when I said that. Oh, God,
I was like, oh, unmade bed, heaven forbid. Brilliant. I think that finishes that off very nicely, and we're right on time, so thank you. So I just wanted to thank Sam Frampton, who is head of Solihull Chamber. We've got Grace in the background doing the slides. Thank you, Grace. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Aston Uni and Leap IT, and our wonderful speakers, Nick Page, Chief Exec of Solihull Borough. Solihull, I still can't say Metropolitan, I'm just going to say SMBC. Tony Alvin, General Manager for Touchwood and also President of the Chamber, and Helen Morrissey from Fairfield Solicitors. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.